What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Deckin Around Reviewed. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Social Print from Juan Alvarez. Before we jump into it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel.
And the bell.
So, Social Print is more than just a simple trick. It is a remarkably entertaining routine that has been performed by Colombian magician Juan Alvarez for more than a decade. Now, Twister Magic and George Iglesias are thrilled to make it available to you. This all-in-one social media themed routine can be fit perfectly into any in-person show, virtual magic show, or TV appearance. This episode is sponsored by MuseumKits.com. Museum Kits strives to bring you museum-quality prints of your favorite playing card artwork. They've recently teamed up with Stockholm 17's Lorenzo Gaggiotti to bring you the award-winning prints of his House of the Rising Spade court cards. These archival quality museum prints will last a lifetime, so make sure to check them out at museumkits.com/S17. It's down below.
Get it.
Man, I gotta say, this was a very interesting pre-built routine. The one thing that kind of stood out to me about this is I wouldn't say it's a gimmick for something new. It's really a pre-built routine plus props for you to go out and perform this right out of the box. With that in mind, it uses, pretty well-known techniques. It really relies on some social aspects of it, which I think I had a little bit of a concern about longevity for this. But all things considered, what you're actually buying is the props and the performance itself. This social print comes in at a high retail price point of $50. With that in mind, I think a lot of what you're getting for that $50 is probably the props themselves and the tutorial. The tutorial for the routine came in, Steve, I think you always like to talk about the length of the tutorial there. I know for me, it came in a little bit of a long one, so I can't even imagine how you felt watching it.
Yeah, it was like, what, 105?
I think it was like 117.
Okay, well, yeah, well, there you go.
Eh.
The very first thing that pops up is George Iglesias, and I was like, all right, I could do an hour with George. Not taking anything from Juan Alvarez, who pops in literally 30 seconds in. He's also, very fun and charismatic, and, he's definitely easy to watch.
Yeah.
But an hour was extremely long for this gimmick and routine. And, obviously several routines that they show throughout the tutorial, just different ways to do it, whether it's in person or if it's over a Zoom type magic show. But yeah, it was really hard to watch for me.
And I think, one thing that stood out to me, and I think this was both a positive and a negative, the tutorial itself actually touched on a lot of the history of the routine and magicians who have come before and some of the techniques that they've borrowed on to create this routine. And while I think that was great to preserve the credit, with all of that and the performance video and the examples, you were about 30 minutes in before you actually had any sort of teaching going on.
Yeah.
Which to me, I think a lot of that probably would have been better loaded onto the back, where it's a more of like a, hey, watch this when you have a chance. Let's get to the business end of it in the beginning. Because ultimately you're sitting there and you're like, all right, when are we going to learn this? And all of a sudden 38 minutes. And then at that 38-minute mark, you still have 40 minutes left of tutorial, which, like you said, is very comprehensive. But I think that 40-minute tutorial, even that probably could have been shortened down a little bit to account for all of the extra stuff that's included. And with that in mind, like what you're getting in the tutorial and with the props, I'd say that the price point, again, is a little bit high. All things considered, it's very comprehensive, but you're not getting anything groundbreaking with this. Ultimately, you're getting a creatively built out routine. And really, to me, it's more of a prepackaged magic performance that you're paying for. There is some capability of expanding on it. I think as with all things, you could take it and personalize it, but based on what you're getting, that personalization is relatively limited. You could use the methodology to maybe create your own version of this, but at this point, you paid a lot for it, and a lot of people probably have something similar already. The other thing that I think stood out a lot to me was the use of social media and some of the celebrities discussed in it. with the audience you're really trying to reach with this, and this is something Steve and I have discussed in the past, we're not exactly sure who the audience actually was.
It's not really geared towards kids, and it's kind of too kid-like for adults, So I think I was kind of lost as to who's this presented for.
Yeah, and with that in mind, I think there's also, when you rely on celebrities or you rely on social media brands and things like that, you put a clock on the longevity of these routines, where you're trying to talk to a 12 or a 13-year-old about things like Facebook and Angelina Jolie or Brad Pitt or whoever. They're maybe not going to have that name recognition. They're not going to have the brand recognition. And I think that's a very important part for these gimmicks and routines to be cognizant of, because ultimately you pay $50 for something that in 2 years, 3 years, if Facebook isn't a thing anymore, has lost half of its power. And, with that in mind, I think this routine actually could be built out exclusive of the social media side of it. It's a very good kind of patter aspect of it, but it wasn't integral to the way this played out. Obviously, from the ad copy as well, they really discussed this being viable for in-person, television, or Zoom, and I agree. I think all of those are feasible. There's also very minimal angle sensitivity which I really liked because of the way they handled the routine. But ultimately, with Zoom magic and really touching on that as a forward-thinking way that this routine can last a long time, I would have gone for things that would have been more relevant. I honestly probably would have used something instead of Facebook, maybe like Instagram, which is a little bit fresher, or even TikTok, and then tried to find people ultimately who are a little more relevant to a younger generation, so there's even more longevity with the routine as it's built.
Yeah, I mean, the props that come with it are very high quality, as usual with Twister Magic. So you're not getting crap, so to speak. It's definitely high quality, and that will last you some time. That might even outlast the gimmick itself, the purpose of the gimmick.
Yeah.
But I totally agree. At that price point, I would have liked to have seen it maybe $30 or something like that. It would have been a little bit more justifiable for me.
Yeah. No, I think there's a lot of potential in this, but I think it just missed the mark for what I was really looking for, especially because I do love the stuff that George Iglesias comes out with, and I think Juan Alvarez is a phenomenal magician. I think, for all things that went into this, it just didn't really wow me as much as I wanted it to. And I think it's kind of ironic as well, because throughout the tutorial, they show a performance, and I don't know whether the people involved in the performance had seen it before or what, but their responses to it were somewhat lackluster as well. Yeah. And I was like, and they even commented on it, but they commented in a positive way, being like, look how amazed she is. And this woman's sitting there being like, hey, that's kind of cool. And I was like, that's not the response you want when you're spending $50 for something. So to me, I think that was a little bit telling, even in the tutorial itself. But again, if this is your style and you really like the idea of social print, this is something you could pick up at your favorite Murphy's Magic retailer.